So I have a question for you. What would life look like if you could feel more comfortable in your skin and you could have peace of mind and just not feel anxiety and self-doubt when you're out there in the world? What would your life look like if suddenly you were able to communicate powerfully, not only with others, but with yourself, which is really, really important because our internal dialogue completely influences what our external world looks like. Usually when your internal world has peace of mind and you're calm, you're able to go out in the world and thrive. What if I told you there's one skill that if hands down, if you start with this one skill and you just practice it daily, that you can transform the quality of your life? Not only your internal world, but your external world as well. That one skill is knowing how to respond versus react. Unfortunately, at the moment, we're living in a very reactive world. It's the way it's set up. But if we can go inward and realize like, hey, it doesn't have to be this way, right? I don't have to live in so much chaos and turmoil with so much anxiety. I don't have to live in a space where I feel like I'm not seen, I'm not heard, I'm not understood. You don't have to walk away from conversations feeling pissed off because someone just completely walked over you and misheard or misjudged or misunderstood what you were trying to say or where you were coming from. So it's really key for you to remember this. First of all, it's about awareness. It's about being aware that a lot of the times we're not slowing down and we're not taking the time to respond to what's going on outside of in our outside world, as well as in internal world. We're just reacting. And when you live in a world of reaction, you just give up all your power. You don't really have any power or say on what happens in your life. And that's really not the case. And if you live in that space too long, you start to really believe that you don't have any power in your life, over your life, how your life can go, or what you can accomplish or get out of your life. You start to really believe that you don't have any influence over your own life. And if you stop, just think about that for a second, that's ridiculous. It's absurd to think that you do not influence your world and the world around you. So 3 things that will happen as soon as you start implementing this, and it's a skill, so you have to be patient. You can't think that it's just gonna happen overnight. You're just suddenly gonna be this like responding guru. It doesn't happen like that. It takes time and you're human. And sometimes you are just gonna be reactive because there's things from your past experiences, possibly past trauma, past ways of being that are going to influence that. But when you become self-aware that that's happening, you're able to actually see it instead of being blinded by it and then making other decisions in your life based on this reality that you've created. This reality created on a world of being reactive versus being in a world of responding to the world, to others, and even to your own internal dialogue, which by the way, you will be the person that you talk to the most. So you're better off being best friends with yourself instead of being that critical, nitpicking, bad person, abusive person in some instances. I don't think people realize that the way they speak to themselves is so ugly sometimes, to the point that if you heard someone talking to someone else on the street like that, you would probably intervene because it would be abusive and hard to hear. But yet you do it to yourself every day. So the whole respond and react will also help you put in perspective certain things that won't allow you to go down that rabbit hole where you are engaging in that negative self-talk. And sure, that happens, but you'll be able to get yourself out of it and go into a different direction and really be more productive and just be kinder to yourself, have more compassion for yourself. So one of the things that you're able to do when you learn the skill, there are a few, but we'll talk about 3, is you'll be able to take your power back. You'll no longer be a victim of the world around you, a victim of the circumstances. You're actually gonna have a say in the way your life goes. That's what I mean by getting your power back. It's not a dominating thing. You're not out there dominating people. It's about really empowering yourself, and you're able to empower others. Number 2, you will continue to, if you have trouble with, you'll be able to respect boundaries. You'll be able to keep boundaries with others, and you'll be also able to keep your boundaries with yourself. And this is really key because a lot of people struggle with that, and you'll be able to see things clearly because a lot of times it's just in our communication that we feel that someone is stepping over our boundaries because we're not communicating it properly. And that happens with ourselves as well. We're not able to put boundaries on shut the computer down, put your phone down, normal social media, don't eat that, don't drink that, don't. And so although that can go down a different avenue of distractions and addictions, which this world is full of, so you're not alone, but you're able to consciously see yourself instead of just being sucked in and then just feeling guilt and shame afterwards when you don't stick to your boundaries, because really good habits is all about boundaries with yourself. So those are 2 great things. And the 3rd is that you're really able to influence the world around you. Like I said before, you're now start to see like, hey, I can make things happen. I'm able to speak something and it happens. whether it's your opinion or something that you've been dreaming about doing in your life, or simply just sticking up for yourself for someone who's really been mistreating you for a while, taking you for granted, or being passive aggressive with you. So you get to impact not only your outer world, but your inner world. And when you impact your inner world, you're able to build inner confidence. And the inner confidence is what kills the self-doubt, what eases the insecurities, because we're always going to have some insecurities, right? But you're able to actually see it from a point of view of compassion rather than beating yourself up and criticizing. So those are the 3 great things that come from learning how to respond versus react. And I guarantee if you put in the effort and you work hard, this will transform your life. So let's get into what it is that you need to have first as a foundation to have better results with it. So number 1, there's a misconception around communication. People think you're born a good communicator, and that means that other people who weren't naturally born a good communicator are hopeless, which is super duper false. There's nothing further from the truth. Yes, some people are naturally more, naturally better communicators, just like anything else. We all have our strengths, our weaknesses, and our talents. But that doesn't mean that with hard work, we can't get there. So forget about that misconception and stop labeling yourself, I'm shy, I'm not a good communicator, I'm introverted, or whatever it is, because then you live into that, okay? So remember, you can learn how to be a good communicator. You just have to learn a skill like any other skill, and you have to practice it like any other skill. And the more you practice, the better you get at it. Second huge misconception about communication is that communication is about speaking, about talking. Oh, he or she is a good communicator. The key actually in good communication is how you listen. It's more about listening than it is about speaking. And this is a huge one, because not only is it about listening more, it's about how you listen. Are you listening to understand what the person is saying, or are you listening in judgment? Or are you listening to see what you're going to say back, or to judge the person as they're saying it, making whatever they're saying wrong, which you're just thinking about what you're going to say next. The power of really listening to someone is to be active listening to them. And active listening is not passive. It doesn't mean that you're just waiting your turn. It means that you're really with that person. You're really trying to understand where they're coming from. And in that listening, you can actually even get nonverbal cues that they're giving you with their body language, with their tone. So the only way you can do that is if you get out of your head and you get out of that conversation that you're having about what this person is saying, and you get in that person's world and you just try to really understand where they're coming from and what they're saying. And this goes even when you really don't like what you're hearing, because you have to be with that person. I've seen clients transform as men when they implement this, and they come back and they're so excited and they tell me, oh my God, you're never gonna believe it, I was able to do this. And how did you feel after? I felt empowered. I felt calm. I walked away like I felt like I was heard, like I made my point. And that's a great feeling, because you don't walk away feeling like, oh my God, I shouldn't have said that, or why did I say that, and that's where the negative self-talk. So it's really empowering for a man when he can really harness this skill. And what happens is he ends up stepping into a leadership role. And I don't mean that you have to become a CEO or anything like that. I mean that you really get to feel that you're living as a leader of your own life and you can lead others. And that really makes people feel comfortable and want to be around you, because they know when they're around you, they can count on you to hear them and to tell them the truth, that whatever comes out of your mouth is really what you mean. It brings you closer to your authentic self. And studies prove that when we are closer to our authentic self, we tend to be happier, we tend to experience more joy, and we really tend to live the things that we want to live in our life, right? The adventures, love, whatever it is you're trying to create, or just simply being able to be in peace and when you're alone, because a lot of times people struggle when they're alone. That's why we have all these distractions that we reach for, whether it's food or porn, or whatever it is that you use to distract yourself. Now you'll be able to be with yourself and be more at ease and feel comfortable. Now, who can this work with? Anyone. It can work with a child, it can work with a partner, it could work with difficult loved one, which we love our families, but sometimes we feel like those are the most difficult people to communicate with. It can happen with a stranger. This is a great tool to really be able to communicate with anyone powerfully and to be fully self-expressed.